What's up, everyone? ODC, it's me here, and today's review we're going to take a look at the G.I. Joe Pursuit of Cobra Shadow Tracker action figure. This, by far, is one of my favorite G.I. Joe action figures. One of my favorite figures that Hasbro has released for the G.I. Joe line, period. And that's saying a lot, because there's a lot of G.I. Joes out there, as far as vintage and modern go. But this guy right here is fantastic. Obviously, he has the look of the Predator here. We all know the similarities between his look and the Predator's. Obviously, the Predator is not human, of human nature, and Shadow Tracker is human. So, but there is the similarities with the dreads, a mask. You know, he's got some of his weapons that he has, like this spear. He's got this net over here that actually Predators do use. This kind of like invisible, I want to call it a plasma net, because it actually, after they wrap you in the net, it actually starts cutting you. So you have that. You have a whole plethora of melee weapons that he has at his disposal. He doesn't have any claws or anything like that, like the Predator does on his arm, but he does come well equipped for tracking down individuals with. I don't think that you necessarily have to peg him only specifically in the jungle environment. I think he can also work well in a urban environment. Forest environment. Obviously, you could do jungle, forest, whatever you want, but I think you can work in an urban environment too, in a cityscape as well. Just taking a look at the figure here, he looks fantastic. I love his color scheme here. He's got the green with the black kind of camo BDUs on for his pants, and then he's got this really nice vest right here where it's kind of like almost like a neon green, or almost like a yellowish green. For the top portion of his shoulder pads, and then the rest of him is pretty much black, and then we have a continuation here on the wrist. The mask is a translucent, similar color. It kind of blends in with the rest of him. It's a really nice flow of consistency throughout this figure, and that's kind of the thing I really want to hit home here, is the consistency of what this character is all about and what he should be. He's one of the most consistent characters, I think, as far as that goes. As far as theme goes, as far as what he is supposed to be, everything that he comes with works for his character. The dreads look really good. I did a really good job sculpting all of the dreads, and the little braids right here that we have going throughout the head sculpt looks really good. We've got one right here as well. It just looks really well done. They did such a good job on this. Let me just get his hand out of the way here so you can see his face. And as you can see, underneath this mask, you just see white pupils, and what I like to think is that he's had some sort of optic upgrades. I like to think, with my own imagination, that they've pretty much given him eyesight for any surrounding or any capability, whether it be urban, night, day, jungle. I would give him heat signatures with his sights. Obviously, night vision. He would need that. But just taking a look at here, as you can see, is that he's not all the way human, which is pretty cool. And you can almost see a mouth underneath there. My curiosity really runs wild with what's underneath that mask. It almost looks like he's got teeth underneath that mask showing, and they almost look like they're fangs. If you can get a really close look at that, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think there's fangs underneath there. Maybe I'm seeing things, maybe I'm imagining things, but that's what it kind of looks like to me. I don't know. some certain angles I can see, it seems like I can see teeth underneath there. But the mask looks really cool. It's very reminiscent to maybe like a Jason X mask, if I had to compare that to a mask. Very creepy. Very, very creepy. You can definitely tell that there's some sort of sculpt underneath that mask, which is pretty cool. If I'd had an extra one of him, I would actually wouldn't mind kind of ruining him just to find out what's underneath this mask. If you guys know what's underneath the mask, please let me know in the comments below, or post a picture on my Facebook page. That would be fantastic. But I'm very curious as to know what's underneath there, as I'm trying to get as close as possible so you guys can see. It looks like he's got an open mouth underneath there. I don't know, maybe I'm just imagining it. But that face, man, holy Toledo, that face. But taking a look at the rest of Shadow Tracker here, he does have a Cobra symbol kind of tattooed on his arm. He's got a little bit of paint applications going throughout his wrist gauntlet. Same thing on the other side. Now what I like to do is, since I love using my imagination with most of my G.I. Joes, I like to think this got some sort of maybe video display, maybe communications device on his wrist, so he can communicate with Cobra, or he can pretty much send messages, stuff like that, via communications. That's what I like to think those gauntlets can also be used for. Also, I also like to think that he's got some sort of darts in here that he can maybe shoot at people, maybe some neurotoxin of some sort, something along those lines. But taking a look at him, I'm just going to back off a little bit here. Now we're going to take a look at his accessories. I already showed you one of his accessories, and you've seen a couple on his person, but the first one I'll show you is this net. It's pretty cool. I have seen it. I think, what was it? I think maybe Crocmaster came with this as well. Not 100% sure on that. I might be making a mistake here, but don't beat me up in the comments for that. It's pretty cool. It's got a handle right here on this side, and it's got another handle on this side, and you can pull this together, and it makes kind of like a nice little satchel, ball satchel, whatever you want to call it. But let's just use it on somebody here. I will grab Flint. Come hither, Flint. And we'll just put it around Flint here. Sorry, Flint. I know. And we'll draw it. And yeah, you can actually pull this tight enough where you have his upper body kind of wrapped up. So that's pretty cool. So he's wrapped up. I mean, you could definitely wrap this around and drag him along, and he stays in there. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. So the net can be used. It actually does have a function. So that's good. Next, I'll show you his file card, and you can pause it and read it if you so choose. Really like the artwork here too. Looks really good. And there's the bottom portion that was cut off. So pretty awesome here with the file card. Very simple, but that's what it is. Next accessory that we have here is this. I'm not sure what you would call this. Let me know in the comments below if I'm butchering it, but it looks like some sort of bladed knife. And I know this has been used before, but with other figures. I'm pretty sure that a couple other figures have used this. But let me know what the specific name for this is. I couldn't find anything online as far as what this was called, so I apologize for not knowing ahead of time. But it's pretty awesome bladed weapon, to say the least. Here is his machete, or machete. Pretty cool. It would have been nice if they would have maybe just painted the handle brown, maybe. Or painted this silver. I know there are black blades out there, but something would have been nice. A brown handle or a silver finish for the blade would have been nice. like they did with this beautiful knife right here. For some reason, whenever I see this blade, this knife, it reminds me of the movie The Hunted with Benicio del Toro and Tommy Lee Jones. I really like that film. It's actually pretty good. But it definitely reminds me of that, when those knives, those specific knives that they were using for the, I guess you want to call it, the fighting style, maybe like a knife kata, I don't know. But that's pretty cool. That's what it reminds me of. And then we have like almost like a cat o' nine tails here, which is pretty cool. Nicely sculpted. It does have a peg right there. It does look a little bit weird, but it's got a purpose. He does have peg holes on him, and you can peg it to his leg or his back, which is pretty awesome. And it is just painted this brown color. It actually is painted. As you can see, there's a little bit of paint slop right on the peg joint itself. So this is painted brown over black plastic. And then we also have his bow, which is pretty cool. And it does have an arrow right there, which is sculpted in. You can pretty much let your imagination run wild as to what kind of arrows he uses. That's pretty cool. And then we have my favorite accessory of his, which is this spear. This spear looks really cool. I love the sculpt of it. It really does remind me of, in certain ways, some ways, I'm not going to say 100% accurate, but it does remind me of the spear, like a type of a spear. Like if the Predator did use a spear, I feel like this might be one of his spears. I know the official look for the Predator spears are different, but it just looks like this would be something he would use. Or you'd go whale hunting with this thing. This thing would just take down multiple targets. I feel like it would just go right through one and into another. And then we have a little knife on the back. Now, this actually is not the knife that he uses. Did not come with. I actually gave this knife from Flint here to him. It actually does fit a little bit more snug on his back as opposed to the one that he does come with. The one that he comes with is a little bit wider of a blade. I don't have it here, unfortunately, but because I did buy this figure loose a long time ago. But there is a knife that can go on his back, and it pretty much just cinches right into the holster on his back. And then we also have another bladed weapon. This is like a Rambo knife. That looks really cool. It's got a little bit of serration right here on the knife. And it does have a peg, so you can peg it into his back or his vest, or the side of his leg, which also has a peg hole, which we'll get to in a second when I go through the rest of the figure and the articulation. But looks pretty cool. Like I said, it would have been nice if they would have given this a little bit more of paint applications throughout. Maybe on the handle, maybe for the blade. Like I said, you could just keep the blade black and giving us a little bit of, I don't know, some sort of paint apps for the handle piece. But there it is. Looks good for the most part. Okay, and finally we have his quiver. And it does have an actual removable arrow, which is pretty cool. And it does match his attire here, for the most part. Really good job on the sculpt. Looks good. And there's the quiver. And the quiver also has a peg joint, so you could peg it to his leg, his vest, or his back. So that's nice as far as the options go for him. Now, like I said, there is no right or wrong way to mix and match what you want his loadout to be. If you wanted to, you could have the quiver, let me just take that off. You could have the quiver right here, and there's a peg right here on his back. You could have the quiver on his back like so. Okay, and then we'll do the knife. Actually, we'll have the quiver like that, and then we'll put his that. And then we could have the Cat O' Nine. I'll just call it the Cat O' Nine Tails. I know that's probably not what it's called. You could have that secured to his back, and then have the knife on his leg, or vice versa. But I think this is what I kind of prefer here for him. And then maybe have the... I kind of wish that this maybe had a string. Now I was actually considering putting a string through here, and the cool thing about this is that, see these grooves right here on the top portion of the bow? It's kind of like a spindle if you were to see these type of hunting bows. You actually can fit a small string through there, and I guess if you use some tension, some natural tension through here, you could loop it through and make that work if you wanted to. So we got the bow in this hand, and then he does have two fingers right there, so as you can see, so you can hold the bow with this hand if you want him to, like that. And then we could take this arrow out, and you can put the arrow in between his fingers like so. And then if you wanted to, you can line this up nicely. Working with the bow, you kind of have to work with it a little bit to get it to go, which isn't a big deal, but it's given, they're giving you the option of being able to do that with the figure, so that's pretty cool. And you can, like I said, you can mix and match. You can put this on his leg if you wanted to, to have the quiver on his leg. I have seen some archers use that technique before, having the quiver on their thigh or their leg. You could also have it pegged into the back portion of his vest if you kind of want to have it offset a little bit like that, and you can just reach back and grab one, or you could have it on the natural back peg, but you do kind of have to move his hair over a bit for that, but you can peg it in pretty much anywhere you want. And if you wanted to have this knife pegged onto the back, you could do so as well, like that, or straight down, or offset. And you could have this attached to his leg. That looks cool too. But pretty much, I mean, you get the point. The point is that you can pretty much mix and match how you want his loadout to be any way you want. Now, he can hold some of his weapons. You kind of have to work with the hands too. This hand right here is actually the better gripping hand for the machete than this hand. This hand's a little bit more spread out, so just to be aware of that. And then as far as this knife goes, these handles are a little bit thicker, so they tend to want to sit in this hand a little bit better. It's still a little loose. A little bit loose, see? So maybe we'll go with the right hand for this. That's much better. It's much tighter. As you can see, that's not going to flop out or fall out. Let's try this. There we go. That's much better with the left hand. This handle is probably the thickest as far as that goes for his hand. And we'll go with this hand too. Yeah, you could do either one with that. That looks good. Now this little knife, yeah, it fits in the gripping hand better. It's not going to fit in that hand though, I'll tell you that right off the bat. But I'll just go with the loadout I prefer. So here's the loadout that I prefer when I'm thinking of Shadow Tracker. I prefer the spear, the bow, the quiver, the knife, and the, I'll just call them Cat O' Nine Tails attached to them. If I could improve one thing on this figure, it would have to be these ankles. The ankles are somewhat hindered when you take him off the display base. He's a little bit top heavy. I mean, I can get him to stand, but you kind of have to spread his legs out, as you can see right here. and they don't lie flat, which is kind of a pain in the ass to deal with. But when you get him on natural surfaces, you don't really have to worry about that too much. You just got to work with his feet a little bit more. But that's, I think, the major thing that I would try and fix on him would be the feet. Also, the bottom portion of the feet. Now this is pretty cool. I got a little dirt on here because I was shooting photos outside with him when I was on my camping trip, but that's just a little bit of dirt. Try to 86 that out of your mind here. But as you can see, there are some padding here for, it almost looks like a foot. So that's pretty cool on his boot. It's like the bottom portion of the boot. So that's pretty cool, but it actually kind of gets in the way. The sculpt of this does kind of get in the way from him standing. Also, the other thing that kind of hurts him as far as standing goes is the lack of a toe point, actually a heel point, I should say. The pants do tend to get in the, the pants do tend to get in the way here as far as bringing the foot up. To point the heel. To point the toe, actually you do get a little bit of movement there, so it does point the toe nicely. It's just bringing that heel out to get that flat surface for his feet. Like I said, he still can stand. As you can see, he's standing right now, no problem. So it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it's something that I did want to point out. So there's that. Actually, if you pop the vest off, I'll just pop his head off really quick. That's pretty much his head popped off, and then we pop the vest off. There is like just a plain gray t-shirt underneath that, which is fine. And then popping the vest back on. This is one of the easier vests to pop back on and off that I've noticed as far as the other Joes. Well, I mean, I was seeing some doozy vests. Some pretty bad vests that don't want to stay popped on sometimes. I'm looking at you, Spirit, but yeah, some vests don't like to stay on, and some vests do, and this is one of them, so that's good. Really good job with the sculpt of the pockets and everything on his vest. Looks really good, nice, crisp, and clean. I like the back pockets too, as well. Looks good. And here's another look at the head. Underneath, that's pretty much what all you can see underneath. Looks pretty awesome. Look at those eyes. Just amazing. Great job on this head sculpt. One of the best G.I. Joe head sculpts, I think, in my opinion. But Shadow Tracker also comes with his base. Nothing too special here. Pretty much just the Cobra symbol and Shadow Tracker right there. As far as his articulation does go, his head can swivel a little bit. His head obviously can swivel without the vest on. I'm not going to go ahead and take that off, but his head can swivel. It can pivot a little bit. It's on a ball joint there. The arms go up, down, full 360 rotation there in the arm. He does have a single bend at the elbow, which has a good range of motion there. A swivel at the elbow, swivel at the wrist. He does have a hinge joint at the wrist, which goes up and down. And then this side goes back and forth, left and right. So that's nice to have that for his kind of pulling back on the bow. So that's pretty cool. I like that. It does have a diaphragm joint, which swivels and can pivot side to side and can crunch forward and back. It's a very hindered due to the vest, obviously, but you can swivel him, though. He does have T-jointed hips, which go out. You can do the splits all the way. Legs go forward nicely. They go back. A little bit of hindered due to the sculpting of the rear end. No upper thigh swivel. Obviously, it's a G.I. Joe, but he does have a double jointed knee. and he does have a swivel at the ankle, and he can point the toe nicely like I showed earlier, and that's pretty much it for the pointing of the heel. Okay, so my final thoughts on Shadow Tracker is definitely two thumbs up here. Here's my thumbs. Definitely two thumbs up here with Shadow Tracker. Go out and get him. I think that if you spend around, I would say loose, if you spend around anywhere from 20 to 30, I think you're good. 40 for mint on card, that's a good deal, I think, for the prices that he goes for. I think that's solid. I know $40 for a 3 3/4 inch figure is kind of a lot to ask. That's Figure Arts territory. It's getting into that territory. But this is Pursuit of Cobra. This is, by far, in my eyes, the best G.I. Joe line. Better than 25th Anniversary, without a doubt. And I'm sticking to my guns on that. This line was something special. And this is a special character that came out of that line. And I hope that, and I don't know, because I don't read the modern G.I. Joe comics, which I think I should jump on that. But it'd be nice to see him in a comic if he's not in one already. If he is, then I retract my previous statement. But he's definitely worth the buy. Go pick him up. And if you don't have him, shame on you. Go get him. He's definitely worth it. And once you get him in hand, and once you start posing him, and once you take him outside and really get his full potential outside in the wilderness or in a diorama setting, or him just taking down Joes by himself, I think you'll really start feeling the full happiness that this figure can give you. He's just taking him on the my recent camping trip. I've grown a new fondness for this figure, and he was already a great figure when I bought him, but he's hands down now one of my favorite figures that I own. Period. And I own everything from 6" to 3 3/4 inch to 12" to whatever. Doesn't matter. Whatever makes me happy. So, with that being said, I don't think I have anything else left to say. I would highly recommend Shadow Tracker to anybody. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. Where the hell is his quiver? Mother flick flack.